Good day, I'm Eliza A. Nogales and I'll be discussing top Romantic period composers. First is Ludwig van Beethoven. Ludwig van Beethoven was bridged the late classical era and the early Romantic era. Most of Beethoven's repertoire is considered part of the classical era, but in many ways he helped develop the romantic style that sought to use music as a more personal emotional expression. His late string quartets and his Symphony Number 9, the last one he completed, stand as benchmarks of early Romanticism. He was born in Bonn, Germany, to a family of musicians and studied music at an early age. He was a talented pianist and composer. Around the age of 26, Beethoven began to hear buzzing and ringing in his ears. He began to go deaf in 1796, but this did not become a hindrance. Beethoven's hearing loss didn't stop him from composing music. He continued composing through the help of an assistant and hearing gadget. He continued to write music well into the later years of his life. In fact, he wrote many of his most famous pieces while partially or totally deaf. It's like that Beethoven never heard a single note of his magnum opus, Symphony Number 9 in D minor, played. His famous compositions include 32 piano sonatas, 21 set of variations, 9 symphonies, 5 concertos for piano, 16 string quartets, and choral music. His works include the Missa Solemnes and Opera Fidelio. His known symphonies are Symphony Number 3, Eroica, Number 5, Number 6, Pastoral, Number 9, Choral, which add voices to the orchestra. Works by Beethoven are still popular today. His compositions like For Elise are now commonly used as music to animated series or movies like Harry Potter and Mr. Bean. In fact, all kind of Beethoven's music have been used in films, so there is a chance that you have heard his works without knowing that they were composed by Beethoven himself. Next is Niccolo Paganini. He was known under the name of the Devil's Violinist for his unique ability to play the violin. He was born on October 27, 1782 in Genoa, Italy. He was particularly known for playing without sheet music, memorizing everything instead, and could play up to 12 notes per second. His musical skills started with playing the mandolin at the age of 5. He eventually transferred his training to the violin at the age of 7 with different violin professors in Italy. His violin teachers could not keep up with the progress of his violin skills that he kept on transferring from one teacher to another. This led him to adapt all his teachers' influences in playing the violin. Paganini became the most famous violin virtuoso in the world. However, together with his fame came the rumors about his amazing violin skills that were said to be a gift from the devil and that he sold his soul in exchange for those skills. He was also rumored to have a problem with women and gambling. His compositions inspired a lot of other composers such as Franz Liszt, Frederick Chopin, and Robert Schumann. Some works of Niccolo Paganini are La Campanella, 24 Caprices for solo violin, Op. Concerto No. 1 in EB Op. 6, 15 quartets for guitar and strings trio, and the Carnival of Venice. Next is Robert Schumann. He is one of the famous romantic composers that beautifully combined music and words. He was a composer and music critic. His father wanted him to study law, and so in 1821, Schumann went to Leipzig to study law. However, he spent most of his time with musical and literary circles through the effort of Friedrich Wieck, who took some time to teach Schumann how to play the piano. It was also this time when he wrote some of his first piano compositions. He eventually convinced his family that he should put aside law in favor of performing career. In 1830, Schumann went to live with Wieck in Leipzig. His composition widely encompassed narrative techniques which previously belonged exclusively to literature. These aspects of composition made him unique from the rest of the composers who embraced the traditional methods of music composition. He soon developed a problem with his hands, effectively ending his dreams as a pianist. Some of his piano works are Abegg Variations Opus 1, David's Bandertons, Carnaval, Fantasy Stocky, Chrysleriana, and Kinderszenen. Next is Frederick Chopin. Frederick Chopin was known as the poet of the piano. He was born on March 1, 1810 in Silazowa, Poland. Frederick Chopin began to play piano at the age of 4. He composed Polonaise at the age of 7. Frederick Chopin is almost exclusively associated with the king of instruments, writing across his lifetime over 200 works for solo piano, among them mazurkas, waltz, nocturnes, etudes, preludes, and concertos. He studied piano at Warsaw Conservatory under Wilhelm Warfel, and most of his music was influenced by folk music. He finished his formal education at the higher school in 1829 and soon traveled to Europe, giving concerts in places such as Vienna, Munich, Paris, and London. He wrote almost exclusively for piano. He made extensive use of the piano pedal in most of his compositions. Some of his music is characterized by its beautiful tone, rhythmic flexibility, grace, and elegance. Some of his compositions, like mazurkas and polonaise, express his love for Poland. Among his popular works are Versus, Chopin Preludes Op. 28, Heroic Polonaise, Polonaise in G minor, Nocturne Op. 9 No. 2. Lastly is Franz Liszt. He was known as the virtuoso pianist, as a composer, and the busiest musician during the Romantic era. The best word that describes the works of Franz Liszt is virtuosity. Liszt was born in the village of Dovarjan, Hungary. He displayed remarkable talent at a young age and easily understood sight reading. His father was his first teacher at the age of 6. A turning point came when in his early 20s, Liszt heard the virtuoso violinist Niccolo Paganini perform, so he decided to dedicate himself in becoming a virtuoso pianist. He played and studied in Vienna and Paris while performing in concerts in the rest of Europe. He was a Hungarian composer, virtuoso pianist, conductor, music teacher, arranger, and organist of the Romantic era. Liszt was the Romantic era's version of a rock star. His piano prowess was legendary throughout Europe, and patrons traveled great distances to hear him play. He was also a renowned composer whose works for piano redefined what the instrument could do. Liszt also wrote symphonic music and is considered the inventor of the symphonic poem. Franz Liszt was the greatest piano virtuoso of his time. He was the first to give complete solo recitals as a pianist. He was a composer of enormous originality, extending harmonic language and anticipating the atonal music of the 20th century. He invented the symphonic poem for orchestra. The piano sonata in B minor is generally acknowledged to be Liszt's masterpiece. He was known for his symphonic poems, where he translated great literary works into musical compositions. He also made piano transcriptions of operas and famous symphonies. Many of his piano compositions are technically challenging pieces. He was also known for his generosity in sharing time and money to the orphans, victims of disaster, and many students he taught music for free. Some of Liszt's piano works are La Campanella Liebestam No. 3, Liszt's Hungarian rhapsodies were originally written for solo piano, but many were arranged for orchestra or other combinations of instrument. The Hungarian Rhapsody No. 2 is the most popular and was the basis for the Tom and Jerry cartoon called The Cat Concerto on Suspiro. Sonata in B minor, arrangements of the 9 Beethoven symphonies, and transcription of Lieder by Schubert. That's all. Thank you for listening.